we'll post this, or we'll save this into our Startup Huddle Mandurah group, and then people will be able to access this and have a listen at their, at their leisure. So what I might get us to do, just while Julie is speaking, I'll just mute everybody's microphone.
Not working.
You've muted yours.
Yeah, sorry, I muted that. Just while Julie's talking, just in case we have any background noise, because I know that can be a bit of a distraction. And I will mute all of you. And Julie, when you're ready, yeah, please feel free to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the topic that you're going to be talking about to us this evening.
Certainly. Well, thank you for the opportunity, and hi to you all on this wonderful, wonderful day. I'm sure it is wherever you are that we've all been blessed with a gorgeous sunny day. It's an interesting space that we've found ourselves in, and I said to Veronica, one of the topics that I'm very passionate about is through this time of I guess, refocusing and re-energizing, I'm really encouraging people to spend and take this opportunity to work on their business. And working on your business is not something that we all have available to us when we're either sole traders or we have a small team. You know, we go through our working days, and we get told all the time that we need to be working on our business and not in it. But of course, as you would all know, those who've got small businesses, it's very difficult to do that. So one of the things that I'd love to share with the group tonight, and what I'm saying, actually I'll talk a little bit about my role. I'm one of the business advisors working for Business Advisory Southwestern Peel, and we won the state government contract to deliver a free service. And what that means for not-for-profits, for for-profits, that you have access to free business advice at any stage of your business. So it could be entering a business idea, it could be working out some stuckness, as I call it. You could also be looking at succession planning. You might look at being like in a not-for-profit, you might look to have your strategic plan written, which dovetails into your operational plan. So with my background, I've had 3 small businesses myself. One of them was very challenging, and I took my eye off the ball financially, and I trusted my business partner, who was an accountant. And I think the big lesson for me was, and what I'm very passionate about. Hi, Trina.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, good. Sorry to arrive late. I've been gardening up until a minute ago. Sorry.
So with we're just talking about working on your business, Trina, and I've just been describing Business Advisory Southwestern Peel and my role in the Peel region. So we have now myself, and we also have another colleague, Jerry, who is a digital marketing specialist, and wonderful to have Jerry on board. He has a global background in website design, SEO, just anything sort of digital marketing. So it's wonderful to have him on board, and he's working 2 days a week. So I'm working 5 days. Currently I'm working on Zoom. So seeing lots of clients still every day, 5 to 6 clients every day. It just happens that I'm behind a screen, which I don't know for some of you if that's exhausting, but I find it actually really tiring. I don't know if I talk too loud to the screen, or I'm just about to get so excited that I'm in the screen. But yes, the opportunity, I think, for small businesses, and whilst there's lots of many sad stories, there's also opportunities to spend this time to work on your business. And one of the things that I firstly say to people, have you connected to your customers? Have you let your customers know what you're doing in your business? Have you let them know, is it business as usual? Have you slightly modified your business? And I can tell a story about a restaurant, and it wasn't in the Peel region, by the way, but it was 2 restaurants One modified his takeaway into takeaway very quickly because he could see an opportunity and he had a database. And the other restaurant didn't have a database, so could not go quickly into that takeaway mode. So it's very interesting, isn't it, how that connecting to customers, whichever way you feel that you would like, quickly, it was almost a telling sign, I think, that they, just either forgot or they just didn't capture the data of their clients. So opportunity to stay connected. How do we do that? If we don't have a database, it's pretty hard. You can use your social media, obviously, and it's a way of still telling your story, but it's got to be kept relevant. So your the other opportunity, and again, there's lots of scenarios at the moment, but it is to review your marketing plan. So you might have had or written your business plan a long time ago, and your business model might need to change. Your focus on where your business is heading might completely be different to what you decided when you first started your business. So I do suggest to people to bring out their marketing plan if they've got one, or their business plan, and to sort of revisit that to see if it's all still relevant. The other area, and I'm sure Gay would be able to support this, that a lot of people, it's a great time to check out your website, to check out what your website in fact is communicating to your customers. Again, is it current? Again, is it communicating what you need it to communicate? So again, with the people like Gay, people like Jerry, we've got people in the Peel region that can assist you. And I just think it's such a great opportunity to use these resources, if you like. Look at your SEO. Again, is it working for you? Spending the time to rewrite some of or all of your business plan, to communicate what it is that you want to do if you're a closed business, when you reopen. I'm not sure if I know Trina, have you stayed open a little bit or not at all? Oh, sorry, she's muted. Sorry, I can't ask questions.
Changed any hours at all. We simply offer takeaway, offering some delivery, and we've been interestingly doing a roaring takeaway business, which had all but dropped off once the tap room opened. Oh, you can't hear any of this, can you?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I needed to unmute myself. Thanks for asking.
No, thank you.
We have a funny amount of trade on Friday, and then it all practically drops off for Saturday and Sunday. So it's like we're just a bottle shop that people are stocking for the weekend.
Great. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So how many of you had a crisis management plan ready for this pandemic? Anyone? I think that's probably the number one red flag, is that very, very few people had a risk management plan or a crisis management plan in place. So again, we're Phil and Julia joining us. So again, it is so important to look at what that crisis plan might look like. I mean, it'd be really unfortunate if we have another pandemic in our lifetime, but just in case, it might not be a pandemic, it could be another crisis. And I think it's fair to say that we need to implement this into our business plan or into our operational plan, just so that in case, what happens? What do we have in place ready? I actually suggest this to a lot of my clients in their succession planning, particularly if you're a sole trader. And I'll pick you, Gay, because I know you and I know your business. If something happens to you, what happens to Savvy Designs? Perhaps the same with Veronica. You know, it's very easy for us to just go along in our wonderful world, running our businesses. But in fact, this is what this pandemic has shown us. The most exposed we've been is as sole traders in this pandemic. None of us were really ready. I think it's fair to say. I think it happened all very quickly. I mean, I think we all read the news in the lead up, and I think by sort of mid-February it was looking a little bit like it was going to go south. But once it did, I think we all were taken. I think it's fair to say that we're all taken by surprise. One of the other really interesting aspects of this this period is that knowing who to turn to, like as small business owners or not-for-profits, who do you turn to in these times? And it's really interesting we've had the Peel Development Commission, we've had the Chamber of Commerce, we've had lots of people who, well done, Phil, does his regular SWOT analysis. Oh, didn't feature, okay. I think it's fair to say that, God, I've lost my train of thought. I've got to not do that again, that's for sure, isn't it? Reading somebody else's comments and then going back on track. Sorry, Veronica, can you help me out? Unmute.
I'll tell you what you were saying. You were mentioning the Chamber and the Peel Development Commission,
Fantastic.
and
Thank you.
the list of who might have been helpful.
Oh, it's always hard when you're live recording, and now you've got that. Yes, the Peel Development Commission, you've got the Chamber of Commerce, and all the councils across the Peel region particularly. It's interesting where people turn to when this pandemic hit. And it was really interesting that people went straight to agencies, mostly. They went straight to the ATO, or they went straight to the bigger, broader organisations. But what I encourage small businesses now to do is use your local resources. Use businesses like Gay's got the ASBAS contract. Use Business Advisory Southwestern Peel. Use anyone that's available. You don't have to do this alone. And I think that's what a lot of people, you know, to be quite honest, I'm surprised more people haven't reached out, because I know a lot of people are hurting. And I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure why people wouldn't say, do you know what, I just want somebody to bounce something off with, or I actually don't know what direction I want to take. Can you help me get back on track? I'd really encourage more and more people to do that. If they're feeling a little bit like it is a bit wobbly for them, or that they're not quite sure, there's no judgment. I mean, I think it's fair to say that whenever we are in front of a client, it is really about getting the best for them over the line. And, you know, sometimes it takes a little bit of time just to go through it. But this is an opportunity, and I keep, really since the 17th of March, I've been saying the same thing, is updating your marketing plan. Update if you've got a business plan that's very old. And the website we've talked about with Gay, you know, particularly it might need an overhaul. It might need all sorts of changes. And we've talked about staying connected to your customers. How do you do that? Have you got a database? How many people don't have databases? And how do you communicate to your customers? Is it through, I was talking to one client the other day, and she said one of her favourite restaurants she doesn't get a text from, and yet another one of her restaurants she does get a text from, and guess who she orders with? The one who gave her the text. So maybe, and someone like in your instance, Trina, you might have a database of clients that you can text them, just reminding them what you've got in store. What are some of your drinks that you've got available? What's your takeaway options? People inherently are lazy, and we want it in front of our face, to be honest. I think we do, whether it's by text, by email, social media. I think it's fair to say that we've been inundated with social media. Really for the last month, it's been saturated, and I think we're all looking for those feel-good stories, pictures of holidays and beautiful beaches like Veronica's got behind her, Paul's Venice, northern Italy behind him. I think that's what we're looking for. But again, as a small business, this is the time. This is the time for an opportunity that you can, because once the doors open, it is going to be all feet in, all hands in, ready to push. Because, you know, I don't know all of your situations, but if you're missing out on your some revenue through this time, and I know other people like maybe Phil and Julie with their business, they have refocused and re-energized it maybe in another direction. And, you know, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Phil, you're muted, but Phil and Julie are looking at a great opportunity whereby they are looking at an Eastern States market because they've got 2 more hours in the day. And how fantastic that in their tutoring and team support business, they can actually modify that to welcome Eastern State clients because they've got 2 more hours that they can be earning revenue. So again, it's about that, yeah, refocusing, re-energizing. And again, that's what is great about talking to other people. Don't try and do this on your own if you're trying to look at maybe new ideas. And I know Phil and Julie met with Jerry, my colleague, and amazing ideas came out of their meeting. So that has re-energized. That's given them a new, something else to add to their business. I might just open it up to some questions if anybody would like to know anything, or maybe for me to, because, you know, it's working on your business. And I really do find that probably the biggest one that I really encourage you to do is work on your crisis management or risk management plan.
Thanks so much, Julie. So what we'll do now is if you've got a question or something you'd like to comment, or even some feedback, maybe some positive news about things that have worked for you, just unmute your microphone and talk away.
Hello.
Paul.
You're only helping businesses in Peel and Southwest?
This is, thanks for the question. Our company is run or owned by IPS Management Consultants, and we won the contract from the Small Business Development Corporation to operate, yes, in the Southwest and Peel. But of course, there's other contractors in other regions, all funded by the Small Business Development Corporation.
Okay, can I ask another one?
And we're a state government funded as opposed to GAZE. ASBAS is funded federally. Okay.
What about, can it be any business, company or sole trader?
Any business that turns over less than 50 million.
Okay.
Or not for profit.
Which is a small business, considered a small business.
Yes, it is. Can you believe it? But I've got a fairly extensive background in not-for-profits, and I'm really enjoying helping not-for-profits with their strategic plans and their operational plans. So it's a bit of an added bonus, but I'm really enjoying that because, yeah, that's something that most not-for-profits can't afford. Certainly a strategic planning person to come in for half a day or a day, and I've simplified it to the point where it can be done, the first session can be done in 2 hours. So yeah, anyone with any, as I said, it could be a stumbling block, it can be a succession planning, it can be a social media plan. I love doing people's social media plans with them, just educating them on how to, like the science behind social media, rather than it being this doom and gloom. I've got to do it. I know I've got to do it. I hate it, which is what I do get from several clients. Facebook or Instagram is not their favourite platform, but they've got to do it. So,
thanks, Paul. Anything else?
I got one more. How do I find out other areas of business help like yours?
Sorry, Paul.
How do I find other companies just like yours, but say for instance in suburbs in Perth?
Yeah, Small Business Development Corporation, just like us. They're the bigger organisation like ours, and they've got commercial leasing experts. So if anybody needs any commercial leasing experts, they've got them there. They've got business advisors just like we've got.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I was just going to say, and the ASBAS program is available throughout all of WA as well.
Yeah, I tried to make contact with that name that you gave me, Gad. I never heard anything back from them, so I might try again at some stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember the lady's name, but you did give me a contact.
Yeah, Agatha.
Yeah. Anyway, I always think that, some things are meant to be and some things aren't. So just move along. Paul, are you not in Mandurah anymore?
Yes, I am, but I'm also working Perth.
Oh, outside. Yeah.
And I'm also helping other businesses,
Yes,
and
of
they
course,
ask
yeah.
me questions like that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely Small Business Development Corp for everything, just like we offer.
Mm.
Yes.
And what's the organization you mentioned, Gay?
That's, the program is ASBAS, Australian Small Business Advisory Services.
Okay.
And that's federally funded, and ASBAS, yep.
Oh.
And that it's just they provide subsidised. It's not free; it's subsidised. So the first session's $44, and then subsequent sessions are $66 for one-on-one advisory. And they also do workshops and webinars.
And they have a digital technologies focus. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. So the focus is increasing small business digital capabilities across things like websites and online selling, digital marketing and social media, cybersecurity and privacy, and also small business systems. So across a whole range of digital areas.
That's wonderful, isn't it? Mm.
Yeah, and there's quite a few advisors in the program, so there's a lot of.
I noticed you've got what's her name, Jo Saunders from LinkedIn.
Yes.
Yeah, who does. So she has her business on the side, but she can give her expertise in that area.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Mm. I was going to look into it, Julie, for the Canva side of things. So there's a couple of other people that do Canva, but not necessarily with clients down this way. So yeah, definitely, because that is we're finding that with all the workshops we're running, there's people. I mean, I could do a social media one every week. Social media planning, content and storytelling. Because people want to know how to do it. And they want to know how to do it efficiently rather than it being cumbersome. I teach social media planning so that people can spend 3 to 4 hours a month scheduling all of their social media, but showing them how to do it, and by using, who are their customers. I've actually helped them find out who their customers are and what motivates their customers to come to their business and what are they looking for. And just knowing those key areas really helps them to dovetail and make sure that their content and their storytelling is targeted.
Yeah, and that's so important, not just for social media, but for their website as well. If somebody's wanting to build a website, that's the first thing they need to be clear on, is who is their target market and how are they going to speak to them. Yeah. And knowing what keywords to use.
And Gay, is it fair to say that in this duration of COVID-19, really, our digital literacy has actually been really exposed, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Because moving into that online platform quickly is not an easy task at the best of times. But again, it's really exposed, I suppose, not just crisis management plans, but also that digital literacy. I really think we've got a lot of work to do, and I'm really pleased for Peel that you've got such wonderful, like people like Gay, like Jerry, wonderful people to be able to help.
Yeah, it's interesting because the whole social media thing is becoming broader and broader and broader. So I started on Facebook 10, 11 years ago when it kind of first was being used for business. It was moving from that kind of personal, like a MySpace type of thing into, I was doing Facebook for marketing basically. And it's just such a different world of social media these days. And now you've got to know, you've really got to understand where your target market is. I mean, I work with young people, although they are not technically my clients, my clients are their parents. And so that's why I have a Facebook presence. But the kids themselves, they're not on Facebook, you know, they're on TikTok and my boys are on Reddit. They use Reddit a lot. And so you've got to get yourself across all the different platforms to then understand where your target market is actually sitting at the moment. And then you've got to learn and understand that platform. And it just seems to get, the list of platforms is just getting larger and larger and larger. So it's really quite a challenge, particularly I think for those of us of this generation. Most of us are here of the same generation, where we didn't grow up with digital technologies. And so everything seems to feel like we're having to learn and we're having to develop skills, and it takes time. And, you know, as we've just discovered, often you don't have the time, you know, like you don't have the time to pivot so quickly. I was very lucky in that the timing of getting my courses online, which Julie knows I had as a goal 12 months ago.
Yeah.
But guess what? Thank you, COVID-19. Coincided with skills of the modern age, launching and promoting their online platform, because they also saw an opportunity to get it out there. And so, you know, it was very synchronistic. And, you know, their platform ticked all the boxes. But, you know, it does cost money. So you've got to have the plan. You've got to have the business plan and the business model there ready to go, to be confident enough to say, okay, I'm going to jump into this space, invest in this space. And, you know, fingers crossed, you know, you've done the due diligence and the research that you're going to get a return on that investment. So, you know, it's still a time of risk, I think, for a lot of startups. So, Julie, you've covered a lot of the questions that I was going to ask, actually. But specifically for startups, so a business that may have only just started up, say, in January, what would the priorities be for a startup? Because I know that there are a lot of very established businesses that have, you know, either closed temporarily or have, you know, managed to kind of reconfigure their business model a little bit. But what about the startups, you know, in your...
Yeah, well, that's a really good question, because I've got a client who, you know, without giving anything away, of course, they started up in January, and they literally had to close up their business because their salaries, their wages were so huge. They had to operate, and they could not move into the online world quick enough to, one, pay their staff, one, they couldn't get job, and secondly, they couldn't get JobKeeper because they couldn't afford to keep the level of staff engaged until JobKeeper came through. So they were sort of in a really tricky situation. They were very highly geared in terms of, you know, big investment, and don't know about the highly geared as in terms of financial responsibilities, but certainly had staff that they had to pay. And so that's been a really, really difficult situation for that scale. But I've had a business on the second week, so not the 17th of March, but the following week, I had a business start up, open their doors. But luckily it was a cafe that could sell takeaway coffees and sell take-home meals. So they knew that that's what they were going to do, because COVID was already out, was already obviously in their planning. They got this cafe for a steal, and literally thought, you know what, we're just going to, they had enough money to get them through 6 months of just, you know, low revenue. And if they could see the 6 months out, they then will be able to start the business and really take it to where it needs to go. But they've modified their business plan just for this interim period of whatever it might be. The other, and I didn't write this down actually, but one of the other red flags for me has been people's fiscal management throughout this period. What it seems to have done in a lot of areas is exposed people's not lack of understanding, but really not knowing where their business was financially. And I really get it. Let me tell you, when I had my cafe in West Perth, you know, I was turning over $23,000 a week. I had 14 staff. It was just go, 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 go. And I could not keep up with the finances. So I trusted my business partner, who was an accountant. For those of you who joined us later, I was describing this earlier. And it's been my biggest lesson, I guess, as a business advisor now, is not to underestimate, even though you might not be interested in the financial side of your business, or figures are not your bag. It's really, really important, again, that you use our service or use me as a person to help you understand your cash flow projections. Because cash flow projections, if you don't know what your business is doing at any time, and I'm, you know, that's what a lot of what I'm doing now is helping people to do their cash flow projections. And I'm encouraging them to revisit their projections versus their actual at the end of each month, not quarter, each month. So about the 4th, 5th, 6th day after close of business, and your bookkeeper or yourself or whoever does your reconciling of your bank statement, looking at what your business is doing so that you don't carry on 2 months, 3 months, the way that it's going. And then all of a sudden it's like, oops, I didn't see that coming. I think that's what the lesson has been for this period, is really to understand what your financials are doing.
Yeah, and I find for me, Julie, I've had a business in the past with a much larger turnover, and, you know, with a team of employees, and, you know, lots of focus on sales, and you know, I had copious amounts of, you know, numbers, and it was a daily thing, and I was always on top of everything, and cash flow projections and budgets and actuals and the whole lot, you know, sales every day, everything. But I find now that I'm a micro business, and it's just me.
Very different.
The discipline just hasn't been there, and it's really frustrating me. So and
that's what I would do. I've got a client at the moment who finances are not her bag. She's a CEO. She's not interested, of a very small not-for-profit, but she's not interested in the financials. And I'm encouraging her to make an appointment with me on about the 10th day of the next month, and we just sit there and do it together.
Yeah.
I said, because I know it's boring for you. If it's not your bag, she's very good at the bigger picture stuff. She's very good at the, bringing business in. But if you're not that financial person, and you don't have a treasurer or somebody within your close consort that you'd like to, you know, make sure that they know everything to do with finances, I just said, make an appointment with me. I'm happy to go through that and just sit down and go, you know what, how is things tracking? And just explain to them what to look for. What are the red flags in a P&L situation? What does your balance sheet tell you? I mean, I think that's another really...
It's not necessarily what I would expect my bookkeeper to do, and it's definitely not what I would expect an accountant to do, but it is more of that financial management, that business management side of it, that I think a lot of businesses that I work with as well, don't really have a focus on. But you know, as we know, the financial foundation of a business is critical. Like, if it's the first, you know, other than legals, you know, financials is the next most important thing to actually have as a foundation to build your business on. Otherwise, you know, I've worked with some businesses that they're actually not really businesses. You know, they don't have the financial flow there that makes them a business, even though they might have an ABN and a Facebook page and a website. There's a lot more to it than that. So
yeah, it is. And I think, and what we did see, and this is very general, by the way, but we did see a lot of people closing their doors very quickly when COVID hit, for all sorts of reasons. I mean, it's you know, there's no one scenario, but I think as a general statement, fiscal management would have to come into it, and understanding what it is, where your business is at today, tomorrow. But of course, that's not always practical. But I certainly think at the end of each month, you need to know what your business, how you're tracking, because it's only a month then that you need to correct. But if you leave it for 6 months or 12 months, it's very difficult. Your business can go downhill very, very quickly.
That's right. Well, some of those, those payments and subsidies are based on, a business's ability to have all their finances in order, to have done their tax, to have had their, what do you call it? BAS and everything up to date, and there's figures ready to show. And that definitely could be a challenge for a lot of businesses if they haven't really focused on that. I know that was the case for me. Not that I don't think I'd be eligible anyway, but it was just a consideration. It's like, I'm going to actually have to do a lot of work to get everything to a point where I'd be able to use it in an application. So that's also a challenge.
And I would also encourage people, and I say this a lot, if bookkeeping or finances aren't your bag, outsource it. It's better to pay a bookkeeper $40 an hour, and I do know them, so I recommend a particular lady in the Peel region. $40 an hour can save you a considerable amount of money. And I've got one client who's just come to me recently, and he hasn't done his tax. He's an older gent, and he hasn't done his tax for 2 years, and he's of very much the old school, and he won't mind me sharing this story, is that he's never wanted to lose control. And he now realizes that actually he has to let go. And because I said to him, but you're nearly 80 and you're still running this business and you're doing your bookkeeping. Do you not see any risk management sort of maybe some problems here? Like, look at it strategically. What happens if, dare I say, something does happen to you? What happens to your business? What happens to your books? And he said, yeah, I see what you're saying, and it's not a light bulb moment, but it's a moment that he just had to have somebody else outside of his family telling him that he may need to consider a different way of doing things.
And I think also because like I said, bookkeeping is a specific skill set. It's a specific part of the operations. And, I know I can do my bookkeeping. That's not a problem. But being the owner of a business, or particularly in a startup phase, when you're having to consider, doing something differently, or hiring somebody, or, changing a supplier, or, those sorts of questions that you're asking around the finances, you need to actually be able to look at those figures and analyze them and, project forward. And that's that sort of working on the business type stuff.
Yeah,
so even if you have a bookkeeper, the numbers and how to look at the numbers and what to look out for and what are the numbers that actually mean something are important, particularly for a startup, because usually during the startup phase, there's lots of tweaking and lots of changes that you're making, because you might try something and then find there's something better. But you've really got to have a handle on your finances to know whether that's going to be viable, whether it still is going to be profitable or not. You can spend a lot of money. You can actually increase your income, but be going backwards profit-wise. So, they're the sorts of things I think we've got to keep on top of, especially in that startup phase.
Yeah, and speaking of startups, I've got a client who started up in reaction to to COVID-19, and she started a home delivery service. And, it's going gangbusters. It's great. But my question to her is it making you any money?
Yeah.
So I helped her with a spreadsheet, and I helped her to see that right now, no, she's not making any money. She's doing it for love. Does she want to continue doing it for love was the big question. No, of course she doesn't. She wants to actually make some money. Or she may as well be on, Job Seeker? May as well be on Job Seeker earning $1,100 a fortnight until, because she lost her job, unfortunately, off an island in Queensland when the island closed down because of being an accommodation. but people react differently, don't they? That's what I'm really finding, is that some say, you know what, we're all in this together. What can I do? How can I do it differently? And yet there might be others that it is, and this is how I think we react to media. If we watch too much, you know, you can get overwhelmed with what we're getting told.
Yeah.
Certainly Scott Morrison has mentioned 6 months. There's, you know, I'm not quite sure that we're going to be out for 6 months, but I don't know what everyone else thinks. I suppose we have to plan for it at least.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to know because things are changing, and WA is obviously doing a lot better even than the eastern states. So we've got that sort of state government versus federal government type thing. But I think it will depend on the businesses. I feel like, you know, if they're doing a slow kind of reopening of, you know, the community and society, then I guess there'll be some businesses that will be operating before others. And some that might take some time to recover.
Yes, yep, definitely.
And I was just going to quickly ask you, and then we'll wind up, Julie, unless anybody else has got any questions or comments, but I just wanted to go back to that. You mentioned the contingency or crisis management plan, which I would imagine for a lot of startups, because startups tend to still be in that world of great ideas and enthusiasm and optimism. Can you just give us and maybe the audience that might be watching and listening to this some insight into what would be important to include in a crisis management plan, and when do you need to have it sort of ready? When do you need to have it prepared?
Sure. No, it's a good question. I probably wouldn't use the word, even though I've said crisis management plan. I would, for a startup, for a small startup particularly, I would do a risk management plan. It's a lot simpler and it is manageable and it won't frighten you off doing it. I think a crisis management plan is for a much bigger organisation, perhaps a big not-for-profit that has got lots of areas of difficulty. Whereas I think for a general startup, it would be a risk management plan. And what that would look like is, what are some of the risks? And we've got now a pandemic. So what happens in a pandemic for your business? What and how does it rate? So is it, if you're a restaurant, well, obviously we know that it would rate, and if you're a brewery, it would rate very highly because you are going to get closed down. So in that, I guess, that level, what does that then mean for your business? What strategies are you going to put in place should that occur? And then everything from that action dovetails into your operational plan. And I think you just work methodically through each one, and each one will be unique in its own way. But that generally is written, and what I encourage people to do is write it. I've got a business plan that a template that we use for all our startups, and in there is a risk management plan. So it's embedded in the plan. It's something that is really highly regarded as you know, when you're starting out in business. And then if it's a bigger business, I would encourage to do a much more detailed crisis management plan, because you've got your public relations, you've got, I mean, and we've seen this already, our communication back to our clients, our database is absolutely imperative when something like this happens. And so it's just methodically going through that document, making sure that all of it is covered. And then, particularly if you're going to close down, because there's going to be a lot of people affected, and what are the actions? What is the outcomes that you're going to go fairly quickly into? Looking at, I guess, the obvious ones that I can use is the restaurants, how they had to go very quickly from having their website with their menus and then taking it completely into an online platform for people to order. That had to happen very quickly. And I guess, yes, that would be written in as an action.
And then I guess they'd have to know that that change of delivery is actually going to be profitable, because that's where, once again, a decision like that, unless you've got a handle on your numbers, you know, you could be thinking that you're keeping the income coming in, but you could actually be going backwards from a profit point of view. So for some businesses, it might actually, you know, sounds a bit of a, you know, sort of counterintuitive, but it might actually be better for them to close, just wait and then start up. Whereas for others, you know, it could be a good idea to keep operating but change the way that they deliver. So,
and I do think that some people acted very quickly because they knew that they wouldn't be able to survive.
Yeah.
And it would go backwards. So it was actually cheaper for them to close just for the, you know, for the interim. Obviously talk to their landlords. If you've got a landlord, and, you know, we've generally seen very good outcomes. Landlords have really come to the party. Not everyone does, but generally, yes, most landlords have come to the party.
Yeah. Mine's been fantastic. Just a shout out to
good
Desiree at Sarah Circle. We've been working together, which is really great. So
that's fantastic.
Yes, and also that risk management should also be including a lot more than just the COVID-19.
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course.
Okay, like if it's a larger sort of a business and you're managing or you're running the place and you've got several people, what happens if you go or you're sick?
Yeah,
that's exactly my point earlier when I was talking about Gay. You know, she is Savvy Designs. What happens with Veronica? She is Epic Training. And yes, sole traders have to make sure that they are covered. How many sole traders have all of their information either on their own computer, their phone? How do you access the information or the bookkeeping?
There are insurances that will cover certain areas too. So
yes, yep. So that all actually does, and it's a good question, Paul, it all does dovetail into each other, so that when you're doing your risk management, it's about all of those scenarios, listing them all. How do they, at what level is it going to impact your business? Is it low, medium or high? And then the task is to ensure that you have got an action in place and it's communicated to, whether it's a team or whether it's a relation, if you're a sole trader, somebody who's going to look after your affairs in the event that you're maimed or, dare I say, passed on.
Thank you so much, Julie. There was so much there. I've actually taken a few notes so that I can put a bit of a summary together in a post. And just before we sign off, Julie, would you like to just let everybody know how they can get in contact with you, particularly if they'd like a copy of that template that you were talking about just before?
Yes, certainly. The business plan and risk management. Yep, sure. So we have our own website, Business Advisory Southwestern Peel. We also have, we're active on Instagram and Facebook, both with Business Advisory Southwestern Peel. Our website has direct links to us, or you can just call me, through the website.
So yeah, if you're okay with it, I can also post your contact or the website and contact details.
Absolutely happy to do
so that people
for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this evening.
Oh, Trina has
did you have a question?
Just wondering, like, if I message through that Facebook page to you, Julie, can I set up either an online one-on-one conversation with you to follow up some of the points you made today, or other details I can't think of right now?
Trina, I'll send you, because I've got your email, so I'll just send you a direct link to my calendar, and you can just book in a time and we'll have a Zoom meeting.
That would be great, because we've really fallen out of touch, and that's my bad. I know how busy you are and how many people want some of your time. So I would really value a catch up.
Sure. Absolutely be delighted to. So I'll send you that before I leave my home office tonight, and send you a direct link to my calendar.
Julie, I suspect you might be getting busy again.
Look, we haven't stopped. I mean, on Friday, I finished at 6:15. It hasn't stopped. And it's really interesting. I don't know why, but the Peel region, we've just got such an interesting community. People are just rolling up their sleeves and saying, what can I do? How can I do it differently? Or I want to start a new business. What is it? What's involved? And I've got so many people starting businesses at the moment. It's not funny. So, yeah.
Please remember to tell them about Startup Huddle as well, because we're definitely here to support anybody in business, but in particular startups. And we love to connect them with the community. And I think I felt very strongly when all of this started to occur that there would be a lot of businesses out there that perhaps weren't very well networked, hadn't necessarily perceived the value of creating networks. And I wonder if they're some of the ones that have really kind of dropped off or dropped out completely, whereas those I've noticed that are well connected into the networks around town seem to have continued and, you know, like you say, working together and helping each other. And it's, you know, I think the value of that connection and those networks is actually really showing itself at the moment. So
no, you're very, very lucky in the Peel region, I have to say, because my colleagues in the southwest don't. Maybe it's just a bigger region, I'm not sure, but certainly Peel is. We're very lucky, very lucky.
Great. So before we sign off, everybody, I just wanted to let you know that next week, same time, 5 p.m, we will have, our guest will be Ollie Bazzani from Skills of the Modern Age. You might also know Ollie from his recent role at Make Place, where he was doing some amazing things there, and also with his new business or enterprise, Scott's Garage, which is located here in Mandurah. So he's going to be joining us next Monday to talk to us about, actually I'm really enjoying sort of like from a young person's perspective or a younger person's perspective, you know, how things are going in his space, and particularly in that space of innovation and entrepreneurship, which is where Skills of the Modern Age sit. So hopefully you'll all be able to join us next Monday evening for Ollie's, for us with Ollie. And please look out, as usual, on our Facebook, in our Facebook group and on our page for information about that event. I've actually created a Zoom link that is now recurring, so I won't need to post that all the time, but it's the same link that we've used for this evening's. So just jump on at 5 p.m. next Monday. So lastly, thanks again, Julie. We really appreciate it.
Thanks everyone. It was great.
Please, if everyone wants to jump on and say goodbye to Julie, you're more than welcome to turn your microphones on. And I'll say good night and see you all next week.
Okay, thanks, Julie.
Oh, pleasure. Lovely to see you all.
Thanks, Veronica.
Bye-bye then.
Julie.
Thanks, Veronica.
Very helpful. Thanks.
Bye.